I keep trying to do is trying to find that starting issue where we can start rebuilding the necessary edifice of our understanding of Torah. And something happened last week in a few conversations that I had that I began to understand something that is happening in our world. And because of that, I think that it really indicates something that people should be aware of. See, what occurs is that people are told variant facts about things. They might, I think someone's at the door. They're told variant facts about things. They're told this idea or that idea. They're told, variant. They're given a variety of information. What happens to an intelligent person when he gives it a variety of information is he starts to connect the dots. He starts to say, okay, what's the connection between this various information? How do we put it together? How we understand these 5 different facts? How can we put it into some theory? And this happens a lot. I see that this happens a lot with Torah, or a lot with discussions on Judaism, where people basically, they hear a little bit of information and they immediately start coming up with explanations, or they may hear some little bit of explanation here or some little bit of explanation here, and therefore they come up with a whole variety of conclusions. I was in Sobeys today, and I heard some people talking about kidneys. Sunflower seeds, they're not grains. Why do it? Because you're this. And I'm sitting there, and these people are talking as if they really know where kidneys came from. They really understand the nature of kidneys, and therefore they have opinions on it. Eventually, we shouldn't be Sephardim. Sephardim don't do it, so we should do it. And I'm listening to these people talk.
On the Torah that they're taking it from, I don't know. But maybe it's half this, half that.
Whatever they got as information, they get a bunch of information, and then they connect the dots. And they sit there and say, this must be this reason, and that reason, and this reason, and that reason. And I'm hearing them talk, and I'm sitting there and saying, yeah, interesting. Yeah, what they think is right. Shows they really don't know what they're talking about, but okay. Not that. Why do I say they really don't know what they're talking about? Because they have a little bit of information, and they sit there and they connect the dots. And the dots aren't necessarily, and they're not stupid. They're not, they connect the dots. No thanks. Okay. This happens to a tremendous amount, to a tremendous degree. And that's what dawned on me in the last week. How many conversations I had with someone where a person, an intelligent person, we're having a discussion, and he's saying A, B, C, and then the person says something. I'm looking and saying, what are you talking about? What are you saying?
Where are you getting this from?
Where are you getting from? Well, he knew this halacha, he knew this idea, and he knew this. He put it all together and said, this must be the reason for it. This must be the other thing. And I'm sitting there saying, your logic is pretty good. Just so happens that what you're saying has nothing to do with the halacha. that the conclusions you reached. Now, that's a problem in its own right. But there's an interesting phenomenon that's further happening today.
Torah evolves and changes.
Well, no. Let's watch what's happening. It's for a further other problem that happens in our world today. So you're already trying to think about some theories and so. I'm getting into something else that is continuing that problem. In other words, what I'm saying is that I've identified a problem. The problem that people take a bunch of facts and come together and put together A lead to B, C, 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 and therefore they have a conclusion.
It's like open Orthodox?
No. I don't want. I'm not going to get into. See, it's interesting. You just said the thing about open Orthodox. What do you know about open Orthodoxy?
So new, like everyone
I don't even know anything about it.
takes it to face value of whatever it is.
What most people know about open Orthodoxy, it's a very left-wing organization,
right,
and that most Orthodox Jews are against it. Okay, fine. Okay. What people don't recognize in open Orthodoxy is that there are certain people involved in the movement who are really, really big Talmidei Chachamim. Right? I can tell you right now, for example, the ordination of women. Orthodox ordination of women. So people think it's this and that and so forth, or something like that. Okay. But the truth is that who's the man behind? Okay, so everyone says, it's Rabbi Avi Weiss, the one who ordains it, and the Maharag Yeshiva and stuff like that. But who's the rabbi? Who's the one who basically said it was okay? Okay? Which led to Avi Weiss doing it and stuff like that. Who's the rabbi who basically said it was okay? Okay? The person behind it was a person by the name of Rabbi Daniel Sperber. Okay? Rabbi Daniel Sperber is the head of the Talmudic program at Bar Ilan University. Okay? Okay? In the eyes of people like Rabbi Avi Weiss, they consider Rabbi Daniel Sperber to be a gadol. Okay? Up there with the top 10, top 15. You know what I mean? They consider him to be a gadol. Now, I'm not one to start evaluating who's a gadol, who's not a gadol. Okay? I've read some of Daniel Sperber's stuff. I've spoken to people about Daniel Sperber's stuff. Okay? I can tell you. Okay? He knows a tremendous amount of Torah. Okay? And the truth is that I have opinions, but my opinions are nothing. You know, I mean, I'm not in the same league with Daniel Sperber. Okay? And a lot of these people who attack all these issues, and I'm not a fan of the partnership minyan which he has endorsed. Okay? I'm not a fan of the partnership minyan. Okay, and I'm not a fan of the ordination of women and so forth. But I can tell you one thing, right? I can't dismiss it as something on the left. You know, I'm sitting there saying, listen, I'm not taking on Daniel Sperber. Okay, and I say Daniel Sperber with respect.
So there must be something to it that holds.
Right. The truth of the matter is, other people disagree with him. Other people of equal stature disagree with him. The majority of people with equal stature disagree with him. Okay? Just because someone holds an opinion doesn't mean I have to necessarily agree with it.
Right.
But the truth is that I have to know who holds an opinion. Like I always get a joke, you know, like you go up to people, like they sort of like, I mean, people, you know, they'll talk about this rabbi, or that rabbi, that rabbi. Who do you even have? Who are you to? You know, not that. You disagree? Fine. You don't want to follow that rabbi? Fine. You have another rabbi you find? Fine. But recognize that the rabbi's opinion is not coming out of left field based upon the fact that he sort of was playing tiddlywinks and decided to do this. You know, he didn't flip a coin and say head or tails, right? You know, it's like these are, and there's so many times where people say things and
it's like almost looked at like that, like
right.
That's the way they're taking.
Right. Right.
Because they have
like if I was talking to Lubavitcher, you know? I told Lubavitchers to come up to me and say, you're going to talk about the Tefillin campaign. Okay. I'll sit there and say, you tell me why the Satmar Rav was against the Tefillin campaign. Then we'll start talking about your arguments. Yeah. Do you know why the Satmar Rav was against it? Do you know that a tremendous amount of people held that Satmar was bigger than the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Huh? There are people, even though people who disagreed with the Satmar Rebbe's position on Israel in the 70s, right? There were people who disagreed with the Satmar Rebbe's position in Eretz Yisrael, right? Okay, but these people still would tell you the Satmar Rebbe was the Gadol Hador. Okay, was the Gadol Hador. So do you know why the Satmar Rebbe was against the Tefillin campaign? Then I would go up to someone who may have been against the Tefillin campaign and I'd say, do you understand why the Lubavitcher Rebbe was in favor of the Tefillin campaign? It's unbelievable. It's like. Don't you understand that the reality of machlokas, of disagreement, tells you that there's a lot of thought going on? But the thing is, let's go back to what I was saying, is that people, I'm just going to the side because you said that open orthodoxy thing. Listen, I have certain issues with open orthodoxy. A lot, I don't want to talk about it, okay? Yeah. Okay? But the fact is that, you know, I recognize that, you know, this is not just to be. They're not just coming out of left field and saying, you know, we're all in favor of this. Okay.
They're not just trying to make it loopholes and easier.
Yeah, they're not just.
There's a reason why they're doing it.
Yeah, the fact is that they may have weaknesses, they may have limitations over, but the fact is that okay. But the truth is,
they felt the way things are done, or like how you explain it, taught wrongly. You know.
That may be true. The fact of the matter is I don't want to talk about orthodoxy, but what I do want to say is what we were talking about before. What I was talking about wasn't open orthodoxy. What I was talking about is the problem. The first problem I was talking about was a problem. What was I talking about? The first problem is in the general population. People are taught facts. Intelligent people, especially in adult education, when people who are normally thinking individuals are taught facts, they don't end with just accepting the facts. They start figuring out how to connect the facts. What are the theories behind the facts? So that's one issue. So you have people basically coming out, using their head and saying, oh, this must be the underlying reason here. Okay, fine. But then the question arises, okay, so that's fine. The fact of the matter is you may not really know what's going on. Your theory may be off. There was a classic, I think this is a classic example of what I mean. In the 1800s, you know how doctors used to treat diabetes?
No. Pick your blood.
If they found you had diabetes, they took whatever blood tests they were able to figure out. I don't know how they knew someone had diabetes. How did they treat diabetes? They gave a diabetic patient sugar. Okay? Now you're laughing. Why is that? Why are you laughing? Because it's the worst thing you can do for the sugar, right? But the fact of the matter is, the leading doctors in the 1800s said, no, the way to treat it is with sugar. Do you know why?
Low in sugar.
Because they're low in sugar.
But it works differently in the body too.
So the fact of the matter is the intelligent human being, this doctor in the 1800s, given the fact that he was limited by a lack of knowledge of the situation, came up with a solution that was totally ridiculous. Okay, and that happens so many times with people in Jewish education. They're told little information, and then they sit there and they want to put together they try to connect the dots. That's a problem.
The way it's taught Gemara.
Wait.
Gemara. There's a thinking.
Let's go.
Gemara
That's true. Let's go. That's true. The fact of the matter is that the weaknesses may start with someone who doesn't even understand the unique methodology of Torah learning, which is a little bit different than other type of learning. Okay, but there's something else. Okay, that happens when people are taught. They're taught certain information. Now, there's another issue that comes up. I'm just pointing out. By the way, I'm saying here's a problem. I'm identifying a problem. People are taught facts. Okay. There's a limitation. The fact is you can't be taught the whole corpus of Jewish thought on one sitting. Okay? So you go to school, even if you go to high school, you're there for 4 years. How much of this tremendous corpus of Jewish education you get in 4 years, and then you take some adult education courses, and this that, so you get all this information, and you're not an idiot. You're someone walking around as an intelligent person. You don't just sit there and file things away as a fact and sit there and say, and I don't know anything more than this, but I'm just following. You start to making connections and intelligence and so forth. But then there's another problem. You know what the other problem is? Is that a person comes around and comes up with a reason that supports the observance of mitzvot. Okay, now that's not a problem in its own right, but when you work on various reasons or various ways of connecting the dots, there may be another agenda or an agenda of someone who's involved in this process to encourage the observance of mitzvot. Okay? Is that wrong? No. So if someone comes up with an idea for some halacha on Shabbos, this is the mitzvah of Shabbos, this is Shabbos, and it includes this halacha, and someone comes up, oh, I understand the reason for this halacha, it tells you this idea about Shabbos. Okay? And this idea about Shabbos will further observance. So, someone says, here's the reason why that's the halacha. It makes Shabbos a more special day, it makes Shabbos more enjoyable, it makes this, that. It makes it that the person will sit there and say, that's a good reason to keep Shabbat. So the rabbi who hears this argument, who wants to encourage this person to keep Shabbat, right, will sit there and say, yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily wrong, but it may not be necessarily wrong, but it's interesting. It becomes something that the person then takes away and says, and the rabbi told me this is the reason. Okay. And the rabbi is okay with that because he wants the people to keep Shabbat. The only problem is that reason may not really be correct. It may not really be a fully substantial reason. It may work sometimes, but doesn't work other times. Right? And then you run into situations where people are saying, we do this on Shabbat for this reason, and then comes about where this reason doesn't apply, so the person says, well, but still we should do this on Shabbat. Well, but this is the reason. So therefore, we'll do something a little bit different because this is the reason. What happens is that the reasoning, these reasoning and way people put together the way they connect the dots, they may do so under the influence of a desired conclusion. So a person is taught a little bit about Judaism. Okay? Person starts connecting the dots. And in connecting the dots, he basically throws out theories that would advance his observance or her observance of Judaism. So therefore, it becomes something, well, this must be the reason. And therefore, this must be the purpose of it. And this is what's going on. So every time that person then talks about this topic within Torah, right, he has this theory, which a person came about through connecting the dots and that, and the theory was substantiated because it led to positive conclusions. The problem that arises because is the theory really a substantial theory within Torah? Is it really a substantial theory within Torah? Is it really when I say reason?
Came out with, let's say, positive results and it works and it goes good.
There's understanding.
Then why would someone want to stop doing that as opposed to another result that would be not as good?
The point is that really reflect the intellectual idea of the concept? See, the fact is you're right. You're talking about the person's observance. You're talking about the fact of the matter is that when you talk in terms of Torah theory, you want to get the Torah theory. And the Torah theory may be completely different. Okay? Yeah. So you may say, hey, this is a good idea for the person to follow mitzvot, and the person may find this, but that's not the reason for that. That's not what's behind that Torah theory. Okay? And it's something where I've seen this happen. I've seen people tell me, here's the halacha, and they'll sit there and say and give this whole theoretical understanding of the mechanics behind the halacha and the reason for the halacha and all these things about the working of the halacha, which then moves into a whole understanding of Judaism and thought and so forth and so forth. And I'm sitting there and saying, maybe that theory makes you may make you want to do mitzvot. It may be a nice theory that you can hold on to if you want to hold on to it. But knowing the information I have, the halacha actually represents a completely different theory. It may not represent the same concept. Try to think of a good example of this. Let me try and think of a good example of this. You have I've seen this with Shabbos, for example, and let's deal with Seder night. Let's deal with the concept of family on Seder night. There is a concept of people getting together on Seder night. There's a concept of connection on Seder night, and so forth and so forth. And people really point this out, and the whole idea of family and the significance of family on Seder night, and so forth and so forth. Okay. But in terms of the actual halachas of the actual halachas of Seder night, okay, what really is the focus of the halacha? What really is the focus of the halacha? Is it the family spread? What really is the question? What really is the focus? So the truth is that the concept of is an aspect of education. The fact is that the concept of Seder night is really an educational concept. Okay? It's a concept that involves investigation of the ideas. So the truth is that Pesach Haggadah has more commentary on it than any other work within Judaism. Why? What? Because Seder night was really supposed to be an intellectual night. It really was supposed to be. Now, the truth is, there might be a concept of family being together. Okay? Because there's a concept that the Korban Pesach needs a grouping. There's a concept of Yadav L'Bincha, which means the concept of well, not just the children, the adults.
Well, if there's a child, there has to be an adult, right?
but the fact of the matter is the discussion is not just trying to explain to the children. Discussion is the analysis of the concept. Okay? The point is that when I remember a woman, there was a girl once. It was an after Hebrew school I once taught, and there was this girl who was in this class who I surmised was going out with a non-Jewish boy. maybe around 16 years old. She was going out with a non-Jewish boy. Her parents weren't too happy about it, and so forth and so forth. I had reasons for this because when I spoke about intermarriage with the students, she was adamant, what's the difference, what's the problem, and so forth. And then and this actually, she was really a terrible student. She had no interest in being in the class, and she was maybe her parents made her come, okay. And she was like a conservative type person, And then she said, and then she said, what really is the difference between the Pesach Seder and the Easter dinner, right? The Easter dinner is just simply family getting together. The Pesach Seder is family getting together. But what really is the difference? Okay. Why? Because that's the way she was taught about the Pesach Seder. The big thing about Pesach is family getting together, and blah, 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 and so forth. Very nice. Fact of the matter is no one ever... And by pushing that concept, people kept going to the Pesach Seders, because let's face it, the Pesach Seder is, last time I saw the answer to this, the Pesach Seder is the most celebrated Jewish ritual in North America. Okay? More people do Pesach Seders than anything else. Right?
Hanukkah, you'd say?
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact is that the point is that, okay, very, very nice. How many of these people, and so therefore you encourage them to do Pesach Seders, and you encourage them to do family, and they all put together and they put together their theory, because after all the kid is important, and you want to keep the kid at the table, and there's 4 questions, and family is significant because there's a concept of sharing the meal, and so forth and so forth. Yeah. But those are all and because of those concepts, they're encouraged because
it's
people.
Like something you have to be prepared for, in essence, like to come to a Seder and have that way of thinking and look at it that way. You'd have to like prepare yourself almost for it to want to be interested at all in saying these ideas or having discussion at all, would because you have some sort of interest in it or see that there's something there to it or something like that. But most people, or Jewish people, it's just another traditional situation.
How many people understand that the idea of the question is not just a ritual question? Everyone thinks the question is oh, it's so nice, you gave me asked the question, why tonight you eat matzah and every other night you eat matzah. Understand, the question is really to start off with the question. He said, what the heck is going on? I had a friend of mine, I just came across this article, and I had to reread it because I forget, but he had an article that he said, you thank God for taking out of slavery in Egypt, right? Okay? Very great. But who put us in slavery in Egypt in the first place? How do we get there? God. So God has put us in that situation, and now we're thanking Him for taking us out, right? Thank you for, it's like listen, you didn't have to put us there in the first place, and you didn't have to take us out. I mean, like the truth is that He gives a good answer, and I forget about it, but the truth is that's a real question. It's like you put us in this terrible situation, and then we're happy to take us out of it. Well, what does that mean? That's a question for the Seder. The truth of the matter is, the Seder questions don't. It's not.
That's a religious issue. They focus so much on the question. Like they're like, now I have to say this question every year.
The fact is,
and that becomes just.
Do you know what I always found so fascinating?
Taking the thought out of it. It's just like, this is the rule, and that's what I got to do. I have to say this question.
And why? Because it's sold. I find it so fascinating. There's so many assumptions people have about Orthodoxy. I want a real Orthodox prayer. I want to go to a real Orthodox prayer service. So I have to know Hebrew. I have to know how to pronounce these words in Hebrew. Okay? Don't know what those words mean. Right? So how many people, when they were brought up in terms of bar mitzvahs, right? The great aspect of bar mitzvahs was to say "Bu ba bi" in Hebrew, right, without any understanding of what you're doing, right? And people loved it, and it looks so ritualistic, and it looks so holy. And this kid stands up there, and does his bar mitzvah with a little bit of with a Hebrew and so forth and so forth. Fact of the matter is if you want to really do something more important, right? Let him pray in English. Right?
Then he knows what he's saying.
Then he knows what he's saying. They can actually do a prayer. It's a very interesting thing, because that's what eventually started happening with what they now call the beginner service. They finally said, you know something? We should just deal with the ideas, or deal with people actually figuring what prayer is about. Right?
Yeah.
I remember when I ran a junior congregation, and I thought it was a very successful junior congregation. You know, everyone wanted to do Enkel Kenu. It was, you know, it wasn't a shul that had Orthodox members. Okay, so it was like, yeah, this, that. What do I do with the kids? And boy, and there was reaction to it. There's some people who basically said, you know, the kids aren't learning the Hebrew songs. They're not learning the Hebrew tefillot. You know what I do with the kids? I say, what do you think prayer is about? It's about asking from God, right, for something. That's what a prayer is a bakasha. Bakasha. The prayer is basically essentially a bakasha.
Thinking.
Well, no. The essence of the prayer is the bakasha, is the request. Now, before you go up to someone and ask, there's a proper way of asking. First way is respectful way of asking, right? Excuse me, sir. You know, like. Okay, and then after you ask, right, you sit there and say, thank you. Right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to ask. So really what you look at is the prayer begins with Shebech V'Hodah, which is a proper way to approach Kosh Baruch Hu. The essence of prayer is Bakasha, requesting from God. And then, at the end, there's Hodah, which basically says thank you. Okay. So the thing is, so what do you think I did with these kids? Okay, and there was a lot of young kids there and so forth. I remember there were like grade 1 kids and something like that. I said, what do you really want? So this kid wanted a G.I. Joe. This kid wanted this girl wanted a doll. So I said, you know what you do? What do you think prayer is? God can do anything. Okay? And if you really want a G.I. Joe, right? If you really want it, why don't you ask God to figure out a way for you to get a G.I. Joe? And you had these little kids sitting there and saying, so I sat there and said, think what you really want, okay, and then think of how you're going to ask God, without talking anything in Hebrew.
Is that true though? Does that really work? Is that really?
Okay, so then you get the.
I grew up trying to believe in that, and then it. Didn't work.
because the fact is that it doesn't mean God's going to answer.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact is that
which seems like what then
which is
a whole other
which is an issue. The point is that it doesn't work like it's going to be, and it's always remarkable when a person sits there and says, and they tell these stories, and this happened, they prayed, and this happened. Right, there was this result. Well, great, but
positive.
Yeah, but wait a second. A lot of times it doesn't work that way. So then the question arises: why do you keep asking if it doesn't work that way? But the point is that to recognize that there's a possibility, but it's not a possibility that you have to figure out how that fits into nature, derech hateva, things of that nature, those type of questions. So what occurs is.
I mean, when it gets to that stage, it starts to look like, oh, it's easy to say, no, this works according to nature. No. Because I did this and I was helped, therefore I got it.
No. The point is that you basically sit there and look at the value in asking. The point over there is the value in the asking, okay, not in the receiving. Okay, the fact is that when you look at prayer, it's the fact that prayer does say is an aspect of asking from God. Now then comes the issue, why do you do that? But the fact of the matter is that you don't necessarily know what God's answer going to be, and a lot of times the answer doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get what you requested. But the point is that take away from requesting. But the real issue over there is the truth is, and this is something that's really significant, is that if you are thinking about asking, then what you're really considering is what's the value of asking, and that's a recognition of God in the world. Okay?
But it could be dangerous, I'm saying, just because you could ask and build up the feeling.
Yes.
This will come to me eventually.
Yes.
Nothing happened. It could be a lot worse, destructive in the long run.
Exactly. So now you're dealing with an issue like that, but that's an issue that's on the table. See, now you're dealing with a real issue. But the point is, but let's not. But the point. Let's go back to what my point is in this thing. What I'm saying is that again, it's a situation where I'm getting back to that point where people fill in the dots, and they said, listen, Hebrew is important, therefore prayer in Hebrew is important, and they were told you had to pray in Hebrew and so forth and so forth. And therefore that became significant, and people started saying you need prayer in Hebrew, and they started pushing bar mitzvahs in North America just to be the ability to just recite in Hebrew. And the fact is, what was lost was the fact that there's a concept here. Okay? Prayer is in Hebrew, but the idea behind prayer is the request. Now you're raising questions in terms of issues in the real issue of prayer. But the fact is most people never even got to the real issue of prayer because they developed the significance in Judaism of Hebrew. What I'm trying to say is that most people started thinking that to be Orthodox you have to pray in Hebrew, right? And that
because it becomes an image. This is what.
But the fact is, and people start connecting the dots that way. Okay, what's it in Orthodox Reform? Orthodox Prayer in Hebrew, Reform don't. Fact of the matter is that no one really investigated what Orthodox attitude toward prayer really was. What is the place of Hebrew in it? There's certain situations in Halacha, for example, if you don't know what you're saying, it doesn't matter whether you say in Hebrew or not, it ain't counting. There are certain situations where if you say it in Hebrew, it does count, but there are certain situations where you say it in Hebrew, it doesn't count. Okay? The point is they have to know what you're talking about. Okay? The point, what I'm getting at is the fact that people filled in the dots, explained what they thought the religion was about, and if that understanding furthered the observance of people of the religion, then that understanding was given a sort of check mark, and that developed, and then when you started having people raising real issues and real questions, right? What they got back was these incorrect understandings of the religion, right? Rather than going back to the real roots of the religion. What does Judaism really stand for? Okay, and the thing I was trying to say is that people attacked Orthodoxy for Hebrew and so forth because because people didn't really understand that Hebrew was supposed to be a language. It wasn't just a ritual. And one of the problems was the same thing as Latin. You know, the fact is that people would compare Orthodoxy to Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism worked in Latin. Latin was a dead language. It wasn't a language that was supposed to be understood.
Sure. Hebrew
was supposed to be understood because there was meaning behind those words. It's just that so much. And it's something I think that what occurs is that there is so much there's so much to study within Judaism that you can't give someone. I've really been experiencing this in for some time in this year. You can't give over the whole picture in an hour. You can't give over all the issues. So every time we started something, there's always new issues emerged. But the fact is that
what's the problem? Isn't that your whole thing? You keep always.
So therefore, you have to and therefore there has to be a methodology of how you're going to go about this process of understanding. When Hillel said to the person who was a candidate for conversion, he said, teach me all Torah on one foot, and he said, begins with Haftarecha Kamocha. Actually, the negative, don't do to another what you don't want done for yourself. Okay. What he was saying is that's the starting point. Then he said, say Omad. He basically said here's your starting point, now go learn. Because that statement, if you think that explains all Torah on one foot, it only explains as a starting point, a way to start the investigation. And that's what Hillel was saying. Here's a place to start, now go figure it out. And then come back to figure out how the things that make up the parts fit into the idea of this concept of balancing between you and another. That leads to a completely different understanding. The fact is, I think what I'm trying to say is that in so many ways, what I found for our discussions is every time I start something, I find myself having to deal with, I found myself in certain situations having to deal with an idea that sort of threw me, because how did that idea become so significant? Or how did that idea, how come that idea came up at this point in time? And this really explains it. People were taught. They were taught and information. People then had to connect the dots, or people then would connect the dots and come up with theories to explain Judaism. Okay? And then, if those theories to explain Judaism would promote the observance of Judaism, these ideas would be reinforced by others. Okay? But what was lost is really that fundamental starting point of the understanding of Judaism. Okay? And that's and even when you get into that, then you have to understand, and there's a further issue, is that a lot of times that fundamental starting point of Judaism may be an issue in itself. Because we have disagreements. We have different theories. So the point is that, and then what you find is how many people want to avoid disagreements and theories. So the way I started off today, right? And it's not just the fact that people don't even know about the disagreement. They don't even know that there was a disagreement, right? Does everyone thinks like, I told you
said between Chabad and stuff, they're
right.
Totally different in their viewpoint.
But the point do you understand what's the fundamental disagreement starting point? What was their fundamental disagreement in? And then you go back to disagreement and how, then you find out that it's difficult to even work out what the fundamental starting point is. But that leads to the point that when you try to reconstruct an understanding of Torah, you're not just starting with a sort of blank slate. You're starting with a lot of assumptions. Some assumptions may be correct, some assumptions may be wrong, some assumptions may be limited. Okay? And that almost with any starting point. People will start with the concept about the Jewish soul. Well, not everyone holds of the Jewish soul. That there's a unique Jewish soul. Okay? Some people will start with the concept of I'm just giving you examples. Some people.
Har Sinai.
Well, Har Sinai is a concept, but what exactly occurred in Har Sinai? What does that mean? What does Har Sinai, or the understanding
of
what Torah?
Adam and Eve, the story, and that's just a concept.
But what does that mean?
Or they understand it a certain way.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, when people think about Adam and Eve,
Christianity understands it one way.
Right. But when people think of Adam and Eve, what kind of people do you think they were? I mean, especially when you've been living in a Christian society, what kind of people do you think they were?
Like after or before? Like what?
Either. Yeah, let's say even before. What kind of people were they before?
They're just the perfect person.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That they
give me
didn't
names
have any
of people.
flaws at that point.
Well, give me names of people that you would, that just generic, just general names of people that people would understand what kind of category you're putting them in. So let's start off. Let's start off this way. Okay, if you want to try to understand Adam, a good name to start off would be Albert Einstein. Okay, of course Einstein wasn't as smart as Adam, but that's where you might want to start.
I don't know if people would say that. They would correlate that, just because they look at Albert Einstein as a smart guy, but not necessarily look at him as the perfect kind of person.
Wait a sec. So I'm just talking in terms of intelligence. Okay. Let's just
how smart a person is, or something. Yeah.
Right. How many people think of that? Right. How many people understand the whole issue of the tree of knowledge? Right. You watch a movie, the tree of knowledge. It's like two teenagers playing, or they're innocent and stuff like that, and so forth.
Like all
and so forth and so forth.
Something.
Okay, so let's start understanding this in terms of, so in terms of intelligence, let's start with Albert Einstein and recognize that he'd be somewhat, he'd be adult next to Adam. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Let's understand that Einstein would be asking Adam to explain every sentence he was saying.
I don't think most people could accept it, because all that knowledge that years and years came later was the beginning point. So they don't think of him as a brilliant
I'm talking about the IQ. I'm talking about the IQ.
I'm saying even the IQ. Like, people don't look at the initial man; they think of a caveman. They'll probably think of like a.
So the point is that's my point.
They're closer
that's
to
my
that.
point. Let's try and understand that. Now, the truth of the matter is there's a clear-cut indication in the Torah about the genius of Adam. You know why? Because Adam was assigned the job of coming up with the names of all the animals.
Oh, yeah.
He had to look at the nature of the animals and come up with a name, which means he had to have an understanding of language. He had to have an understanding of zoology. Okay? So the fact of the matter is that he was a pretty smart guy. Now, if that's true, okay, what about Eve? No, she wasn't any stupider than Adam. She was also created by God. So then, well, how did she how did she sin? What, you think she sinned because she was so infatuated with an apple? The fact is that you're starting a completely different perspective. Okay? But a lot of time, like, I'm going back to basics, but the fact is we don't often recognize how we don't understand our starting points. And a lot of our starting points came about because of things that we sort of liked, because we filled in the blanks, we connected the dots, and when we came up with an idea that would make people say, that would say, we're into this, right? People said, okay, that's good, without really knowing what's going on. Anyways, that to me is what we are really trying to do here. We have to go back to basics, but not basics. We have to go back, sit there, and say, what what are underlying principles that we often don't even recognize or don't even know. And that's what we have to be doing. And that's sometimes a real challenge.